if you don't have this particular information or details, then definitely you need to go and take a look at your at the Google Drive, the tiny URL. Okay, so as you can see that we have done most, in fact, of these source-based questions. Okay, what is important is this, correct? We are looking at what are the predictions of 2022. Of course, if you are going to ask me how secure are we in risking or actually sort of just looking at one particular issue, okay, but as you can see, the issues actually, they don't really repeat. Okay, so we're talking about 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. So you see 2017 started with issue 1, we're talking about source based, right? Okay, as well as SRQ, we look at issue 3, issue 1 again made appearance, and you can see that they tend not to repeat what was being tested. Okay, so meaning issue 3, which is globalization, was tested as a source base. Okay, issue 2, living in a diverse society, was SRQ. And I know a lot of you right now, because of time, some of you are already asking me like nature what to study for essay, even though essay is 15 marks, but it is actually quite important. Okay, so this is definitely what the teachers are predicting. Okay, issue 1 is citizenship. Issue 2 specifically is about the race, religion, the assimilation and integration. Later on, I will also give you the prelim, N-level prelim questions that we gave the students, and then you see whether you can do it. Okay, and then you can see that we're also predicting that issue 1 could be an SRQ or it could be issue 3. Okay, so these are things that I would say you need to get a sensing. All right, now this is a tip I'm giving you right at the beginning. Okay, now you look at 2022 mid-year. Okay, you look at 2022 mid-year, and then you look at what are the possible source-based question as well as SRQ that I am already predicting. Correct? So in mid-year, if you look very carefully, okay, I have already sort of tested you specifically on issue 1, correct? And I have tested issue 3 as SRQ. So make your own deductions. Again, I repeat, make your own deductions. Decide on what you need to focus on. Okay, so you look at mid-year. Again, the tip is look at mid-year, what are the possible issues that I've tested, and then you look at what are the possible issues that has not been tested, but I am predicting. Can you see that? Okay, so because of that, then obviously you can make your judgment what to study for SRQ. Okay, so I hope I have given you a very good clue so that you don't get stressed out for next Tuesday. Okay, and of course, this particular paper has all the set of notes. Okay, so what kind of notes am I really talking about? And especially in terms of your revision, you need to look at this. You don't have to really now look at your textbook so much. I would say it's really a bit, you can read it for obvious answers, but I would advise you, give me a minute, let me just show you the screen. I would advise you to just look at the revision package like this. This is the one I'm talking about. Okay, so this SRQ packages is very important. Now, how do you study using this kind of packages, right? I mean, you need to have a sensing like, okay, how do you study? Okay, so if I were you, I'll take a look at all my, for example, even questions like go back to, for example, your tennis series. Okay, when you go back to your tennis series, what you do is you specifically look at the essay questions. So like the self-directed learning question, right? I've given you specifically an example of a question, right? Now, so there are reasons why perhaps I'm giving you certain topics for your self-directed learning. Okay, so these are the questions, right? Okay, so specifically what you do is look at these questions and then toggle between the issues. And what is interesting about the notes that is really being curated, and I want you to listen very, very carefully. Okay, if you looking and studying based on hard copy, it is not going to be color coded. I repeat, it is not color coded. But if you're referring to the PDF, okay, there's also extra links to it. You can just hyperlink it and read it a bit more. But what is important is definitely definition, the examples that I'm giving, but the one that I actually indicated, why is this important and how does it benefit society, this part. Now, why is this part the most important? Because this is where your links are. This is the one that in an essay, especially the 8 marks essay, this is the one that is important. So yes, you may not remember the examples that much, but you need to know how to link. So in issue 1, especially issue 1, because it covers all these things, government, roles of government. And I foresee that this is one of the biggest challenge because it was done in Sec 3. Okay, one of the chapters that is harder is definitely the roles of citizen. The roles of government is very easy, but it is the role of citizens that I feel a lot of students, even the N-level kiddos, they had problem with this. So what I'm talking about is, okay, so this one, the government part is quite easy. Okay, so always make sure that you look at the blue color. Those of you who actually have the, who actually are looking at it via your PDF, I think is easier to see. So you can see that, you know, all this, the why is it important? How is it beneficial? Those are the things that I would say you need to really read properly. Now, this is the one they're not going to ask you about, you know, what is democracy specifically or the rights of the responsibilities, but they can ask you this, okay, the roles of citizenship, which is based on bit identity, participation, and which one is more important. So always, I think I realized that in your mid-year, a lot of you had no time. So again, time management people, you need to make sure that you do it properly. Okay, now this is the one. You need to know the different roles. And I have put there very simple textbook answers, really simple textbook answers. And at the same time, these are the ones that will usually be tested. Okay, so the examples are there. All right, the examples are there. Okay, and especially the part where it comes to conclusion. So some of this conclusion part can actually be your links. So some of this conclusion part, okay, look at it again, are actually your links. All right, and specifically, this is on page 13. Okay, so take note of this. These are the ones that is very important, at least for your revision for prelim. Okay, how do you decide what is good for society is another chapter that students don't, I mean, you do understand, but when you want to talk about the link part, okay, and usually most of the time, they tend to not get the links. All right, the other one is, okay, so this is the one. Okay, why? So focus on this. Focus on why is it important for good governance. So this is the link again. I repeat, I'm going to write it here and I'm going to give you this updated version later. Okay, this is the link, which I think is very, very important for you to take note. Okay, why is it important? So I've given you, in fact, links which you can write it on your own. So these are things that I would say for issue 1, it's very important. Okay, all right, just to go and just let's be fair, okay, and take a look at issue 3 as well. Okay, give me a minute. Let me open up issue 3 for you. I will give the tip again after I just show you guys this, okay? So for those of you who just came in, the biggest tip that I want to give you is take note. Okay, mid-year, these were the topics. Okay, so take note is these are possible O-level topics, issue 1, issue 2 for source-based, or it could be issue 1 issue 1 or issue 3. Okay, for mid-year, look at the topics that has been tested. Will there be a possibility that I could test the same topics again? I don't know. It is up for you to decide. I have gone through the important points of issue 1. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the important points for issue 3. And this is issue 3. So for those of you who are at home and you have the PDF, for those of you, the PDF links are in the Google class. So take note of that. Okay, so if you look at issue 3 specifically, it is basically between chapters 8 and chapter 9. Okay, and the whole entire thing about globalization. So you can see that, if it's PDF, you could actually see the links. Okay, I think if you get a question that is about the driving forces of globalization in O-level, it will be super, super easy. Okay, economic impact. I think a lot of students are still a bit pretty blur about this. Later on, I will give you the link for economic impact. There's a few videos that I did for the Sec 3s. Hopefully it will help you. Okay, very, very quick videos to recap about what is economic impact. And one of the most important thing about economic impact in the notes is about responses. So take note about that. It's always about responses, the examples where there is an impact. What are your responses to it? Okay, it's usually impact to individuals, countries, as well as companies. So this is the one that you must take note. Okay, the other thing is, of course, we did this. I think when Ms. Tan was around, she also has finished this cultural impact of globalization. Now, this is another example. I mean, not another example of a hard topic, but it is an example of a topic that needs to read it a little bit more. Okay, hybridization as well as homogenization, and usually again the responses are important. Okay, and one of the favorite questions in O-level and in other prelim paper that they like to ask is, which one is better, hybridization or homogenization? Okay, so just remember, homogenization is about making everything the same. Hybridization is trying to fuse and infuse. So these are things that maybe you can take note of. Okay. And of course, they love to ask about cultural impact of globalization. They like to ask specifically about what's the solution to make sure that our culture is not affected. So I've also put it in because these are possible questions that they like to ask. Okay, these are also just examples. Read it, and of course, we covered this, and I think this is the easiest chapter. I would say easiest chapter because they usually ask you about impact. Now, the only hard thing is, if I can zoom out slightly for you, is this. How do we manage cybersecurity challenges? And there are 3 ways. So these are the things that you need to remember. Okay. One of it is definitely responses, the response from country as well as government. Oops, give me a minute. Okay. Responses from businesses, responses from individual. So you must always remember, you start with the individual, through education, businesses, what they can do to ensure that no cybersecurity, the threat is minimized, okay, as well as what are the responses from a government. So for government, always remember that it's always a law. It's always about either you raise awareness or you actually have a law to curb the problem, to reduce the problem. Okay. Same thing with terrorism, quite self-explanatory, but they always like to ask this. This is their favorite. Between prevent means literally to stop, to deter, versus to protect. And if the terrorist has already attacked us, how do you respond to it? So there are 3 ways. I repeat. Prevent. That means from the get-go, how do I prevent it? That means there will be no problem. Second is protective. How do I protect against? That means I future plan, I forward plan. Okay, and lastly is, if let's say, for example, there is a real terrorist threat, what is it? How do you respond to it? Okay, so these are things that I thought I wanted to just disclaimer, finish up this SRQ. And having said that, okay, those of you who have this, so I did mark, and I know that self-directed learning, I think for some of you, the hard part was actually the focus. Actually, it's not really anything else. It's really, really the focus. And oops, wait, I think there are some people who is joining us. Give me a minute. Let me just, okay, sorry. Let me just share the screen again. Okay, one of the things that I realized that is really your time management. Okay, now if you get this kind of questions, especially, it's quite easy though. Always remember that extracts, I repeat, I hope you guys listen, the extracts are at the end of the day just trigger. They are just trigger. Okay, and when I say trigger means you sort of just use it as a like a springboard of thoughts. Okay, and the trend is always, if you look at your TYS, okay, it's usually a picture, is usually a cartoon, and sometimes it can be words. Personally, I like to have this kind of things, okay, like pictures, or even cartoons, or even certain what do you call that, advertisement. Okay, it makes it quite interesting how you use it to just get some ideas. Okay, now coming back to the question, it shows a pool of blah, 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 fake news. Okay. And in your opinion, how can we, now, because it is, how can we, okay, you can see it as both. For example, what is your role as an individual? What is your role as a community? Cannot go wrong. Okay. And definitely, what is your role as a, can you say government? Of course you can. Okay, and the reason why you can use government is because it's very generically we. Okay, it's very, very generically we. So I thought I wanted to remind you guys of this. Okay, now, what if, let's say, for example, in the prelim next Tuesday, you get Singaporeans. Okay, then specifically, okay, the tip is to always see it as how can the individual play a part and how can the community play a part. Okay, so if you talk about schools, schools is actually government, but through schools, how can the individual do something? You know, after getting the knowledge from school, how can the individual do something? So I thought I wanted you to be very careful and take note of this. Okay, all right. Now, if it's very generic, you can anyone. In fact, you can just have to do one good strategy, and it's good. But if it's Singaporeans, or so how about if it's Singapore? If it's like, okay, what can Singapore do? Then you can identify it as this. Okay, individual, community, and government. Just take note, because if not, then all your marks will be gone. And I think roughly those of you who did this, I marked not bad. Okay, you talk about how can you manage fake news, and if I were to show you some of the answers, I think it's this one. Okay, and I think it's really standard lah. All right, provide education. I think that is one way that you could actually do it. And always remember, it is, so you give me all these CCE lessons, very good. I think it has been hammered into your head, but through the CCE lessons, okay, actually, right, if you go back to question paper, it's not just about two strategies. Okay, it's not just about two strategies. What they are actually asking you is, let me get rid of this first. Okay, what they are actually asking you is this: how can we manage the problem of fake news? Manage it. Okay, in some other questions, sometimes is how do you promote harmony, example, or how do you ensure that people are kind, for example. So always take note, what is the question asking you? Spend that time. Okay, and then you can realize that, okay, when you have, for example, the strategies provide education through CCE lessons. So because there is this concept of education, I give the example. So what is it? Or how does it actually manage the problem of fake news? Because when you bring back that lesson to your family members, and this is very standard, I think it's like a template like that, they will also be more vigilant and greater awareness. And I tell you, this will be a perfect 6 marks answer. This is a perfect 6 marks answer. You don't have to even write so much. As long as you're able to give that, because you bring about this knowledge to your family members, they're more vigilant, there's greater awareness, then straight away, you are able to manage the problem. Can you see that? So I think this is very, very clear. And I hope you have the time to really do this one paragraph. So our technique or our criteria is just do one very, very well, get your 6 marks. And then if you have time, go to another example. So just on that note, okay, specifically when you talk about government, always remember that government is always about either to punish or to raise awareness. That's the best, okay? And why? When it's government, always use this word, is to deter them, okay? Because only the government has the power to have laws, to have all these things, all right? Okay. Now, moving on to the next question is, okay, I think this is quite easy. Do you think that having good leadership is more significant than providing a stake for everyone? Okay, so again, what is the question here that we are looking at? We are looking at specifically this, achieving a successful country. So you must make sure that you tell me that how does good leadership lead to a successful country? How does providing a stake for everyone lead to a successful country? I think this is the one that you need to take note of. Okay, so in your answer or in your link, you must actually tell me about successful country. Okay, so it is not just understanding the factor or providing the examples, it is actually answering the question. And again, extracts are extracts. Can you use it 100%? You can actually. You elaborate a little bit more. So for example, like this, right? When the government aim to, because it's talking about providing a stake for everyone, and everyone gets at least home ownership. That means, what does home ownership means here? It is actually everyone is allowed to buy a HDB or a house, a basic HDB, home ownership. Because in some countries, they don't have that. So if you copy this example, then you need to elaborate how does providing home ownership leads to everyone achieving a successful country. So it's about pride, it's about having that that stake, it's about having that responsibility, because the government is able to provide you basic needs like this, right? Hence, you are able to contribute back to society. Okay. Okay, there's someone who actually have a question. Okay, if you have any questions, you just type it in, then I will come back to you. Not to start at online scams. Yeah, correct. Correct. Yes, I mean, okay, if you look at I think Julian's answer specifically, yes, okay. Well, okay, I agree with what Mrs. Chan says, okay. So definitely, if you could elaborate a little bit more, okay, if you could sort of give it that, okay, because you are able to I would say, okay, raise awareness, okay, navigate it, and definitely you are a bit more discerning to fake news, and it will create definitely okay, not everything I would say is you must link to standard of living lah. Okay, let's be very honest. Okay, how the standard of living, that means it's about safety. So if you link it to, because there's awareness, because I'm able to raise this awareness among my family members, I am able to also give them that sense of security. Okay, then I'm definitely, I think definitely you're able to get that marks. Okay, so you must remember that in O level they are marking holistically. Okay, meaning there's a lot of different variations. Of course, whoever teachers that's teaching you specifically will have their own standard or their own way. So I'm just giving you what is required at national exam. Okay, if you want to write more just to secure yourself that marks, I think that's good. Okay, now moving on, I want to go through this question. I think a lot of students as I was. Okay, so let me just, sorry if it's a bit jumpy. Okay, so question 1 is about message. I think I don't have to go through that. And question 3 is the blogger bit. Same thing, I don't want to go through that. But I think I wanted to go through with you guys this one. Okay, especially I would say that this is okay. So this is a proving, and cross-referencing is very important. Okay, now when I say about cross-referencing, we are talking about a few things. We are talking about whether or not when you talk about, okay, when you talk about cross-reference, be very careful. Okay, we are talking about, okay, give me a minute, let me just draw it up. Okay, if there are sources that they have already given, okay, and you must use the source. Okay, you must use the source. So does source C prove the concerns in source B are justified? So for this, the most important source is definitely your source C. Okay, does source C prove the concerns in source B are justified? Because at the end of the day, it is about source C. So read again the question. Does source C prove the concerns in source B are justified? Now, the other thing that I wanted you to take note is concerns in source B are justified. You need to, first step, identify this concern. What is this concern? And a lot of you, as I was marking, you managed to do it, or you sort of like, I don't know, you sort of don't understand what were the concerns raised. Okay, for those of you who got level 4, I think you sort of got it. All right, so this is the first thing that you need. The first step is you must identify the concerns. Okay, and then what is the meaning of justified? Justified is, okay, is it okay? Is it reliable? Is it accepted? Okay. Oh, let me see. Okay, later on I'll handle that. Okay. All right, let's take a look now at the sources. Okay, so the two sources that were in question was source C, as well, sorry, source B as well as source C. Okay, correct, right? Source B and source C, right? Okay, this one, right? Okay, and a lot of you sort of identified specifically about casual racism. Okay, so you're right. Okay, so first things first is what were the concerns raised? Okay, so always go back to the question itself. So the concerns raised is one, that there is casual racism. Okay, and the fact that racist comments is still being made. Okay, so this is the concerns. Identify concerns first, and this is but people are not responding, or people ignore the other person's comment. Okay, and it says here that even though people don't like racism, okay, so these are the concerns, there's still casual racism despite that it is being in 2016. Right, so that is the main concern. So once you have established that concern, okay, all right, then so the concerns, oops, is racism exists. Okay, all right, now next. Now you take a look at this. And he says it very clearly in his note here. Is there racism in Singapore? Of course there is. Okay, and racism is a continuous concern. Okay, and they do a lot to counter it. Whereas in source B, it feels like people are ignoring it. Correct? This part. Okay, whereas this one says we, but the we here, of course, is government. Different stakeholders, different people. All right. Now, of course, a lot of you said that, oh, this one say ignore, but this one say Singaporeans actually respond. I didn't mark that correct for reason because of the way that the concern was raised. Okay, and in this extract, they actually said that the creators, blah, 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 everyone has a right, but what they did was not right. So yes, they didn't ignore, but in fact, when they do this, it actually creates more racism. So I don't accept all those answers that says that is unjustified. Okay. All right, so now what I want you to sort of, maybe if you have space below your source, okay? So source C proves the concern raised are justified. So this is your paragraph 1, right? It's because there is casual racism. And source B agrees with the statement. Okay, some of you wrote it as a compare contrast. Shouldn't, okay, you must always answer the question. So if the question is about proving that the concerns raised are justified, then you must find that similarity. Okay, you must find that similarity. Let's look at the answer key. Oops, there. Okay, what are the concerns raised? These are all the different concerns. Okay, comparison of two sources, it is because of the similarities. Okay, now some of you also gave that, okay, source C does not prove concerns raised justified. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the differences. And the differences is quite obvious. One say there is nothing that's being done, ignored, right? But this one says that we do a lot to counter it. It has to be this source detail. It cannot be this source detail because it creates more racism. Okay, so those of you who actually copied this as source detail, I marked you wrong. Okay, so source does not prove the concerns raised are justified. Find the difference. Okay, and the difference is source B ignored, whereas source C it is being acted upon. Okay, all right. So now this is the one that a lot of students sort of fumble. A lot of students did well for this. Now, this is the one that will score you the highest marks. So what is the highest marks is, go back to the question. What was the question? The question is about, does source C prove concerns are justified? So what is the source that I look at or I question the reliability? It's source C. Okay, so listen up. Now, can source C be very reliable, or can source C be extremely reliable? And if you look at the creator of the source is the Ministry or the Minister of Law, okay, and he's addressing all these things for a certain reason, because he wants to reassure Singaporeans. So what I'm trying to tell you is, always look at the extracts. Yes, he may be Minister of Law. He may say it to support, for example, the government. But what you need to take note is, okay, so sorry, source C proves blah, 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 answer the question due to purpose plus the outcome. What was his outcome? What was his intention at the end of it? Okay, and you can either do purpose or, okay, another different color. Give me a minute. You check this based on cross-reference to another source. I prefer purpose because it is easier to explain. Okay, you can cross-reference. You can cross-reference to, for example, the background information, or you can cross-reference to other sources that actually show that the government, or at least there are steps in actually addressing casual racism. Okay, so example like, or you can actually talk about, you know, that there is no such thing as, because this is a Singapore case study, right? I just wanted to tell you, okay, this was the one that I wanted to point out. Your cross-reference to the other source, okay, preferably it's also a Singapore case study. So you need to take note, in all the other tennis series questions, right, they tend to like to use 3 different countries in one particular question paper. So if you are going to use cross-reference, you have to make sure that the cross-reference is a Singapore case study. And that is why if you look at the sources that is given to you, not a lot of Singapore case study. So because of that, the highest level actually went to purpose and outcome. So I repeat, because this is a Singapore case study, all right, it is best that your cross-reference to another source is also a Singapore case study, because you're talking about the same, because you are trying to prove that source C is actually reliable, okay? But if you cannot find that, you do purpose. And I think there were some of you who did purpose and you get really, really good marks, okay? So take note of that. All right, okay. Half a second of wait time while I go to the other. And I also want to show you the other question, which is a 2018. For those of you who have your 10-year series, by the way, this 2018 question, I've already unpacked it in a video. Okay, I know Instagram made you guys do this, okay, but it is still at school, so I haven't seen it specifically yet. All right, this is the one. I think question, this is 2018, by the way, 2018 O-level paper. I'll give you the video link after the Zoom. It's question C. Oops. Question C. Does source E prove the concerns raised in source D are unjustified? So definitely when you talk about unjustified, we are looking at the differences first. Okay, justified means similar. Unjustified means there is something that is different about it. So take note of that. Okay. And again, you can see it's very trending, this kind of question. Okay, so if you look at the question itself, okay, so just take a look at this. Unjustified, we're looking at differences. Justified, we're looking at similarity. Now, why do I have this, even though the question is unjustified? Because in 2018, the marker report actually said that there were students who sort of misinterpret, they're not totally wrong, and then they talk about it as justified. Really weird lah. Okay, so they accepted this also. So my best recommendation to you is just follow the question, answer the question, copy the question stamp. That means even though it takes a bit, but copy so that you don't get penalized. So source E proved the concerns raised in source D are unjustified. Okay, and if you look at the two sources, I think some of you have done it. Okay, look at source D. It talks about Pokemon Go, and it talks specifically about how Pokemon Go has perhaps sort of provoked many to enter disturbed prayers or disturbed places of worship. Okay, and it's even quite dangerous because they have because you're talking about globalization, right? And the use of computer or the use of apps sort of got a lot of people in very precarious situation, okay, while playing the game because it's so popular. Okay, whereas source E talks about same thing. So you can see, right? Because this is Pokemon Go, that's why your next, the thing that they're asking you to compare with also must be a Pokemon Go, because they're asking you, does source E prove whatever that source D said is unjustified? So source D is saying that, you know, having this kind of influence or having this kind of popular game that uses technology, because the whole idea is about globalization here in this particular 2018 paper, it's about really technology is actually quite bad. Okay, but in source E, it actually does say that at least, oops, okay, at least it flags up, oops, give me a minute, to players nearby, it's free advertising. And you can see that, you know, actually having a app like Pokemon Go was effective. It actually brought more people to this museum. Okay. So let's take a look at the answer. Okay, now source E proves that the concern raised is unjustified. So that means I'm looking at, remember when we talk about unjustified, we are looking at it in terms of difference. Okay, as both sources talk about different outcomes of the game. So don't be scared. What we are looking is just the criteria of it, Okay, now, so it says that source E highlights the positive effects, whereas source D is mainly concerned about the side effects of the game. Okay, for those of you who just came in, we are looking at 2018 tennis series paper. Okay, and then it doesn't prove that the concerns raised are unjustified, as both did, okay, both highlighted the negative effects of the game. Unjustified means we are looking at similar. We are looking at similar. So it is actually it is almost a comparison question. It's just that you have to go one extra step. I repeat, you just have to go one extra step. Okay, so don't be concerned about, what if I cannot do? Okay, just follow the flow of the thoughts of it. Okay, and then you can see that both of them actually prove that it is unjustified. It's similar because there are negative effects. Source E mention of attracting people who wouldn't have come otherwise, and the other one is precisely the argument that players who might enter worship disturb and create some problems. So both of them do say that there are negative effects. However, both of them are saying that there are certain differences. One totally say that it's not good, whereas one is it does bring about positive effects. Okay, question, right? Does source E prove the concern? So again, what am I looking at? I can look at the reliability of source E. Now, what if, let's say, you misinterpret and then you go and write about source D? Would it be possible you look at the reliability of source D? Possible, okay, but you will not get the highest marks. All right, you will not get the highest marks. So the highest marks actually went to, so always remember, this is a tip for you again. Ding dong, ding dong, it's a tip for you again. Okay, if you get this kind of question that is worded like this, always look at the base source. This is your base source. And if you want to score the highest marks, it must be, you look at the reliability of this source. What do I mean when I say looking at the reliability of the source? We are looking at the purpose of the source. Okay, should you write both? Yes, you must write both to get at least, usually this is 7 marks, right, Firas? I think Firas was asking a question. So what you do is you write in terms of content first. Okay, you write in terms of content first, but it's not similar and different. You must always remember, right? Prove, always answer the question. But you're right, you have to write both. You have to write both, because by writing both like this, you can see that this is where you get your five marks for this. Okay, so go back to the question again, look at source E. This is where you get your 6 to 7 marks. Okay, so obviously, okay, someone's mic is on. Could you please switch it off? Thank you very much. Okay, now source E does not prove that the concerns raised in source D are unjustified because it is published by a staff. Okay, it is expected that the staff is actually supportive of PG is Pokemon Go, as it will increase the visitor. Okay, and obviously he or she is not concerned about it, because the whole idea is to have the app that uses technology. It actually helps them. Okay, because why? The person source E is the amusement staff. So obviously source E does not prove the concerns raised. So does not prove concerns raised in source D are unjustified because there is a reliability. That means I cannot trust source E. Source E is biased. Source E is biased. Obviously, right? It's going to say good things about Pokemon Go because it has brought the museum benefit. So take note of that, especially when it's the justified, unjustified thing. Always remember this. I think that this is very, very important. Just remember, if it's unjustified, we're looking at difference. Does not prove it is unjustified. You're looking at similarity. But when it comes to the highest level, look back at the base source. And again, base source is always the first one. Ken? All right, so those were the few things I wanted to tell you. Okay, let's go back to your self-directed paper. Okay, I wanted to just touch about question 5. Okay, so question 5, a lot of, because I've marked the prelim paper for 4N, and I'll probably give it to you in the, I'll give it to you in the link, and then you can see the answers as well. Okay, now question 5, again, okay, now this is a impact or a reason question. This is not an agency question. Okay, so I want you guys to super remember this, okay, because it's very, very important that this is a reason question, and this is not an impact question. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is not an impact question. And I'll be very honest with you. The reason why some of your friends in the 4N classes, 4A and 4B didn't score, I wouldn't say that they didn't pass. You can pass, but they didn't score, and they got really unfortunately a bit of a lower mark. They wrote a lot, okay, because for question 5 they managed to finish. For some of you here, I'm worried that you can't finish. Because when I was marking this paper, I realized that a lot of you spend so much time because you get so excited with question 1 and question 3. You write and write so much. Ridiculous, I tell you. Just be very focused about that. Okay, and then you guys will start at question 2, right? Because you need to do a bit of thinking. Question 4 was good. Actually, question 4 was really good. So I don't want to go through surprise so much. But question 5, those of you who did it well, was good. But those of you who never do, it's very hard for me to sort of get a sensing. And this is always the one that kills a lot of you. And let's be very focused about this, okay? When you have questions like how many is not achievable, so because it is a reason, you need to have a very clear outcome. Outcome, larger outcome, impact. It has to be how many is not achievable because why? Okay, because based on the source that you see, so what? All right, so you must remember the so what. So if you put the so what in as part of this suggests that, right, and you never make it very clear or explicit what is the impact of it, well, then I tell you, you sort of cannot score. Okay, sorry, this one should be, yes, it is an impact question. It is not an agency question. I'm not asking you who is responsible. Okay, I'm asking you whether it is achievable. So it's a yes and a no, and it is achievable. Why? So it is always the so what, and it is always the why. Why is it achievable? So if you look at, for example, source A, the one that talks about all this food, and a lot of you went on and on about food, but the whole idea is about multicultural, right? It's about accepting, right? So that is why in the answer, which all of you should have already. Okay. So this one, okay, I want you to also be very careful. This particular school was a double negative. Okay, I'm not talking you maths, but it's double negative because they're asking you about how many is not achievable. So usually we tend to be like, oh, how many is achievable? And then you write it such as that, right? So you must always remember it should be, I disagree with the statement. That means I agree that harmony is achievable. So I want you, okay, so take note. Another tip is, because this is a negative, that means double negative, harmony is not achievable. So sources that says that harmony is achievable, you must start with I disagree. So take note. I think there were some of you who misinterpreted that. Okay, and then you look at source A. Okay, it enriches due to its cultural belief or benefit. Okay, this suggests that harmony is possible in an ethnic diverse society. So okay, so I know the link here is very simple. Okay, but the key idea is with open mindset and acceptance, harmony is achievable in ethnic society, which will then lead to stability, which will then lead to a country that is very accepting. Okay, so you can add a bit more. There's a plus here. Okay, but this is the basic. If I see this, I would actually give you that mark. Okay, it creates maybe stability, and because of the stability, then definitely people. Okay, so add that a bit more. All right, the next one is source C. And if you look at source C, the positive aspect is this one, right? Okay, I mean, it is achievable. Okay, and why is it achievable? Is because the government plays a role. So identify that. Okay, even though this is not an agency question, but it is achievable because government is there to ensure that there is a strong stand or policy against racism. So when the government takes a more proactive measure, harmony is achievable because why? People are, for example, you can add on, people are deterred to be racist. No choice, right? If you're racist, then you get fined or you get penalized, okay? And when people are deterred to be racist, it creates a bit more of stability in the country. Of course, I know some teachers like to talk about, okay, then you get economic stability lah, standard of living is better, yeah, you can write all of that. But sometimes in the exams, it doesn't have to lead to all of that. Okay, as long as you're able to at least link it up to, okay, that's about stability. Okay, then yes, good for you. Okay, the other one is source B, right? We talk about, or source D, we talk about this source. One more, I just want to go through this source D. This one, right? Obviously, is not achievable, right? Because it feels that casual racism is still there. All right, so look at that. Insensitive. Okay, it alludes to racism here. Hence, casual racism should be avoided because people will feel offended, mistrust, and of course, you can add in, it will create to tension, and tension means less harmony. Less people trust each other, and when society is less trustworthy or trustworthy within each other, it will create this ill feeling. Okay, so yes, accepted. Okay, so you can see that I did not put in the bonus, correct? I did not put in the bonus. Okay, so give me a minute. Let me just look. Okay, so out of all this, right, which would be the best to actually write about bonus? Okay, if I were you, definitely, okay, bonus, remember bonus? What are the ways of doing bonus? Okay, one is you question the reliability. Two is CK. That means you use your own knowledge. Three is conclusion. The best is definitely conclusion and questioning the reliability. Now, for this kind of question, I would say reason and impact, right? Conclusion is a very good way because, okay, the only thing that I want you guys to remember is with conclusion, you must come up with a solution, a possible solution for it. Why do I say conclusion? Because harmony is both achievable as well as not achievable. It depends on the solution that the country is willing to input. I repeat, why do I like the conclusion bonus? Is because you are able to balance it. Harmony is hard, right? It's hard to even achieve in the first place, but it is the responsibility of everyone. Okay, so if you angle it that way, definitely at least that bonus part is there. Questioning the reliability, a bit tough, I would say, a bit tough, but you can do source F. And the reason why you can do source F is because what is the, you can do source F or you can do source E, in fact. Okay, but I prefer source F because, no, okay, so I just wanted you to remember that when we talk about questioning reliability, a source is unreliable, mostly it is this, or a source can be super reliable. Okay, of course you cannot use the word super reliable. It is more reliable. And source F is a source that is definitely more reliable. Reason is because British journalist based in Paris. So whatever her point of view is quite interesting because she is the third party. And she is saying that actually assimilation here is a big failure. You see, what French politicians need to do is to help integration and not demand assimilation. Okay, minorities do not suffer from discrimination. So she is what we call a neutral, since we are neutral because not really Frenched, not really part of the government, okay, a neutral party who is just trying to tell you about very factual stuff. So this is my tip for you. when you do bonus, especially questioning reliability, let's say you do the source, right? Okay, be very careful. A source can be both unreliable or a source can be more reliable, especially when it comes to people like this, or it can be, sorry, more reliable. It can be like this even. You can use what's that? The Minister of Law. That means it shows that the government is taking actions. Okay, so these are things that I wanted you to sort of take note specifically about it. I am going to give you another example. Okay, give me a minute. 1 minute of wait time. And the reason is because I wanted to show you examples of bonuses. Let's see if I could show you. If not, I'll just send it to you via this, yeah. Okay, are bonuses very important? I don't know. Do you have to decide, I would say, and you have to sort of weigh, is it the most important? Not really lah. I wouldn't say it is very, very important, but it does help you get a better, definitely a better mark. I am not lying. And it is good that you guys at least try, because if you don't try, you will never get that how do I say? You will never get the highest marks. Okay, so take note of that. Okay, let me just show you. Okay, let me just show you this. Last one before there's any questions. Okay, so this is how you get the marks, right? Okay, so our aim is we need to get 1 yes, 1 no, 5 marks. This is the O-level question 5, how you're graded. Okay, and 2 yes, 2 no is definitely the 8 marks, the best. Okay, can you get 7 marks for 2 yes, 2 no? Of course. Or you can get 8 marks. Okay, this is it. All right, this is the one. This one is because I gave the 3E. Okay, you don't have to do all this, everything. Okay, so this is just generically using healthcare as an example. Okay, so take note of this, the different methods. I'll send it to you later in a PDF version. Okay, and I gave an example of how a bonus can look like. Okay, method 1 as well as method 2. I use contextual knowledge, as well as method 1 is questioning the reliability. So I'll send this to you as a sample. All right. Okay. So or I'll put it inside the Google Drive lah, so that you all can take it. It's just that this one is based on healthcare. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I know it's 9:35. I've exceeded by 5 minutes. Remember, please make sure that you read all the stuff. Okay. If any questions, I will be around for another maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I'll let you do your revision. It is recorded, so go back and listen to my tips. I was very clear in the beginning, in the middle. Okay. And I hope you catch it up. Okay. So good luck, everyone, on Tuesday. I'll be around on Monday, hopefully. So if you have any questions, you can still find me.